The African savanna awakens like a world that breathes on its own. As the sun begins to rise over the horizon, heat spreads across the plains like a golden veil that reveals everything and hides it all at once. The air vibrates with life, from the gentle murmur of the wind brushing through the tall grass to the first sounds of animals breaking the silence of dawn. In this vast landscape, where the sky seems larger than anywhere else on Earth, every sunrise declares that nothing here is guaranteed, and yet everything flourishes. As the day unfolds, the savanna shows its true face, a delicate balance between abundance and scarcity. During the rainy season, the land transforms, turning lush and green under the blazing sun, while rivers that once seemed asleep are reborn with vigor. In the dry season, the ground hardens, dust fills the air, and life shifts from routine to resilience. Everything here is shaped by the cycles of the climate, and every creature has learned to respond to its signals with an almost instinctive precision. But the savanna's wonder lies not only in its vastness or its constant change. What truly captivates the eye is the multitude of stories hidden among the shadows of trees, in the footprints etched into the sand, in the silent trail of an animal that passed hours before. Even the smallest creatures play essential roles here, weaving together an ecosystem that has reinvented itself for thousands of years, survival after survival, generation after generation. It is a land where every detail reveals something greater about the power of nature. And as we walk through this golden expanse, we begin to notice certain beings that stand out from afar. Signs in the vegetation, deep footprints in the soil, and a sudden, heavy silence all signal the presence of creatures that don't just live here. They shape the savanna with every step. It's at this point in the journey that we start to approach those who carry the strength of true titans, capable of transforming their world simply by existing. And so, almost without realizing it, the trail leads us to the beginning of one of the greatest stories in this land, the story of the elephants. From the long shadows cast in the early morning light, shapes emerge that seem to move the very earth beneath them. The elephants walk as though carrying the memory of the world in their slow, steady steps, opening trails that become pathways for every other creature of the savanna. With each movement, they reveal a rare combination of strength and sensitivity, a balance that only truly ancient beings can achieve. There is something profoundly silent and powerful about them, as if nature itself had placed here a living reminder of what endurance means. When we look closer, it's not just their size that impresses us, but the intelligence that pulses behind their dark, attentive eyes. Their colossal brains, among the most developed in the animal kingdom, store memories that stretch across decades, paths to water, safe havens, dangers that have vanished, and others that still persist. They recognize faces, distinguish emotions, and respond to the world with an awareness few living beings possess. And so, when they extend their trunks to touch a calf or examine a tree, they seem guided by something far beyond instinct. In the savanna, elephants are not merely inhabitants, they are sculptors. With every tree they knock down, every path they open, and every seed carried within their dung, they reshape the land without asking permission, yet offering benefits to hundreds of other species. They are like giant gardeners working on a continental scale, ensuring plants renew themselves, vegetation spreads, and routes remain open. Nothing about their movements is small. Everything leaves a mark, marks that the savanna learns to follow. Despite their immense presence, there is surprising delicacy in their gestures. The trunk, made up of more than 40,000 muscles, can lift an entire log or pick a single twig without breaking it. And when the heat grows unbearable, they seek puddles and rivers to coat their bodies in mud, creating a protective layer against the punishing sun. In this simple, almost ancestral ritual, we see how deeply these giants understand both their bodies and their environment, a silent dialogue between them and the savanna. And as we follow alongside these colossal beings, we notice how everything around them changes too. Trees take on new shapes, shrubs bend in unexpected directions, and the light filtering through the canopies creates landscapes that exist only because these giants have passed by. And in that same play of light and shadow, another inhabitant of the savanna begins to reveal itself, a creature that rules not through strength, but through height, grace, and a vision that reaches where few others can. In the distance, its neck cuts across the horizon like a living tower, announcing that the savanna still holds more stories among its trees. Is toward this next encounter that our journey now leads. The giraffe appears as an almost ethereal presence on the savanna, rising above the trees, as if shaped to touch the sky. Her movements are slow but never clumsy. Each step seems calculated not to disturb the delicate balance of the world around her. With her large, watchful eyes, she observes everything from a vantage point no other animal can reach, as if entrusted with the silent duty of guarding the plains. There is something deeply serene in the way she moves through the landscape, unhurried, unafraid, simply coexisting with everything that surrounds her. Her slender body conceals an astonishing strength. Those long legs, which lift her up to 6 meters high, allow her to reach surprising speeds when danger approaches, defying the gentle image she usually conveys. But perhaps the most fascinating thing lies within, a powerful, heavy heart, built to pump blood all the way to her lofty head with enough force to keep every sense awake. Everything about the giraffe, from her neck to her legs, her rough tongue to the unique patterns that mark her skin, seems perfectly designed to harmonize with the land she inhabits. Her eating habits reveal that same blend of delicacy and adaptation. With her dark, nimble tongue, she maneuvers among thorns that would deter any other animal, reaching the soft, high leaves of acacia trees. In doing so, she opens spaces of light between the branches, allowing new leaves to grow and giving smaller creatures a chance to rest in the shade. Each bite renews the vegetation and helps maintain the ecosystem's balance in a way that is almost imperceptible, yet profoundly essential. She is a silent guardian of the savanna, contributing through her very height to the continuation of life's cycle. And precisely because her presence is so peaceful, the tone of the savanna shifts when her movements slow and her gaze turns toward the horizon. Somewhere in the distance, the wind carries a low, rumbling sound, almost subterranean, that rolls through the air like an ancient warning. The giraffe recognizes it instantly, not as an immediate threat, but as a reminder that not all life here is guided by silence. There are forces in the savanna that rule differently, through impact, through territory, through the fierce order they impose. Following that invisible trace, the trail of the savanna leads us to the next chapter, the realm of those who make the earth tremble with a single roar. When the roar of a lion cuts through the savanna, the earth itself seems to answer. It is a sound that doesn't merely echo. It commands respect, organizes space, and reminds every living being that a silent order governs these plains. Lions move with the confidence of those who have nothing to prove. Their muscular bodies glide through the grass like golden shadows, carrying the weight of generations of survival. Even from a distance, their presence is impossible to ignore. The entire savanna seems to breathe differently when they appear. Within the pride, every individual has a clear purpose. The females, coordinated like a single organism, are tireless hunters. They know the terrain, the winds, the exact steps required before a strike begins. The males, with their manes gleaming under the sun, stand as guardians of the territory, protectors of the cubs, and living symbols of strength. They do not rule through brutality, but through structure, a balance of duty, strategy, and courage that allows the pride to exist amid so many challenges. A lion's life, however, is marked by constant trials. From cubhood, they face relentless threats, ambushes from rival predators, conflicts within their own kind, and territorial battles that can last for days. Only the strongest, the most resilient, earn the right to reach adulthood. And even those who reign for a time know that nothing in the savanna is eternal. Another roar, younger or bolder, may one day rise over the horizon. Here, every triumph is fleeting, but each victory leaves deep marks in the story of the pride. When a lion hunts, the savanna watches. Its powerful bite, capable of crushing bone, and its claws slicing through the air with precision, make it one of the most feared predators on Earth. Yet, it does not spend its days in constant pursuit. Much of its time is devoted to rest, long hours stretched in the shade, conserving energy for the perfect moment. Is this blend of strength, strategy, and restraint that defines its survival? A lion wastes no movement. Every twitch of its tail carries meaning. And as the sun warms the golden skin of these great felines, something in the air begins to shift. The wind grows heavier, more humid, carrying a scent that even the lions recognize instinctively. Shadows lengthen and the clouds thicken, as though a second sky is forming above the plains. The lions raise their heads, alert to a force that dominates the savannah with the same majesty they do, the storms that approach. And it is in this meeting of earthly power and celestial might that our journey leads to the next chapter. When the sky above the savannah decides to transform, no creature can ignore its arrival. Heavy clouds gather like dark fortresses, streaked with lightning that illuminates the night with an almost supernatural brilliance. These are storms that can unleash thousands of lightning strikes within hours, painting the horizon with flashes of white and blue that dance between the clouds. The wind rises, the air vibrates, and for a few breathless moments, it feels as though the earth itself is holding still. It is a spectacle as old as the continent itself, a reminder that, despite the strength of predators and the endurance of herbivores, no force compares to the African sky when it decides to reveal its power. And when the rain finally falls, the scent of wet earth mingles with the echo of thunder fading in the distance. The world seems reborn, yet that rebirth always stirs those who live in the shadows. As the storm dissolves and night reclaims its silence, other hunters seize this moment when the ground is still damp and sound travels softly. Among them come creatures with an unmistakable laughter, moving through the darkness with careful steps and sharp eyes. It is in this charged atmosphere, after the roar of the heavens, that we begin to approach the most misunderstood strategists of the savannah, the hyenas. In the quiet that follows the rain, hyenas emerge like living shadows gliding across the damp savannah. Their eyes catch the faintest light, alert to the slightest movement or scent that might mean opportunity. Often dismissed as mere scavengers, they hide a sharp intelligence, one that turns the chaos of night into advantage. Their eerie laughter, echoing through the darkness, is not a sign of amusement but of communication, a language of their own that organizes the clan, warning companions of prey, danger, or territory. Hierarchy within the clan is well defined, and every member knows their place. Females lead with firm authority, and their hunting strategies are carried out with remarkable precision. They do not simply trail behind other predators. They create ambushes, anticipate movements, and coordinate fast, efficient attacks. With a bite powerful enough to crush bone, they access nutrients that others leave behind, ensuring nothing goes to waste in this intense cycle of survival. It's no wonder their hunting success rate is among the highest in the savannah. When you observe a hyena up close, you see pure adaptation embodied. Its steps are silent, its sense of smell keen, and its posture reveals a creature always ready to seize the perfect moment. This ability to turn any opening into an advantage makes them such feared predators, not for brute strength, but for cunning. In the savannah, where every inch matters, intelligence can be worth more than muscle, and hyenas understand this better than most. And as they move through the night in search of food, another hunter awakens with equal precision, though guided by a very different kind of power. The still damp ground softens his light, almost soundless strides, and his eyes, locked on the darkness ahead, reveal a predator built for speed. While the hyenas navigate through shadows, the savannah prepares the stage for the arrival of one who cuts through the wind like no other, the cheetah. When the cheetah begins to move, the savannah seems to hold its breath. It doesn't walk, it glides. Long, lean muscles ripple beneath its spotted skin like tightly drawn cords waiting to be released. Every step is measured, every glance deliberate. The cheetah lives on the razor's edge between calm and explosion, carrying in its body the promise of a speed no other land predator can match. It is the very embodiment of precision, and the moment it decides to run, the world around it dissolves. The ground trembles beneath its paws, the air parts before it, and the landscape turns into a golden blur. In just a few seconds, it reaches speeds that defy logic, a chase as brief as it is breathtaking. Its body was built for this, a flexible spine, massive lungs, and semi-retractable claws that grip the dry earth like tiny spikes on a racetrack. But the same speed that defines it also limits it. After only moments, the heat inside its body becomes unbearable, and risk outweighs reward. This fleeting fragility makes the cheetah a paradox, feared for its speed, vulnerable for its endurance. When it finally brings down its prey, its heavy breathing betrays the price paid for victory. And before it can even recover, it knows other eyes are already watching: lions, hyenas, even vultures. The savannah is harsh on those who stand out too much. Here, strength and speed do not guarantee dominance. They only attract more challengers eager to claim what's been earned. It is along this fine line between glory and loss that the savannah reveals its most unpredictable face. Where dry land meets water, another predator waits, patient as time itself. He doesn't need to run, leap, or chase. He prefers to wait. Submerged still, with only his eyes and nostrils above the surface, he watches the movements of the herbivores approaching to drink. And so, after meeting the fastest hunter on the continent, we now encounter the one who rules through patience, the Nile crocodile. Along the riverbanks of the savannah, silence takes on a different weight. The water seems too calm, too still, as if concealing an ancient secret beneath its surface. This is where the Nile crocodile reigns. Its powerful body remains almost entirely hidden, revealing only alert eyes that watch the shore without haste. It doesn't need chaos to act. Its rule is born from stillness. Every second of immobility is part of a strategy refined by time over millions of years. Weighing more than a ton of pure muscle and power, the crocodile is the perfect embodiment of predatory precision. When it opens its mouth, it reveals rows of sharp teeth designed not for chewing, but for gripping, holding its prey with a force greater than that of any other African animal. Its jaws can exert enough pressure to crush thick bones, and its dense, muscular body turns every attack into an explosion of brute strength. It doesn't chase its prey. It captures it in a single, lightning-fast strike. What's most impressive, however, is its patience. The crocodile can wait for hours, even days, without moving, simply observing. It knows the habits of the animals that approach the river. It recognizes when the young hesitate, when herds grow distracted, when the heat forces even the wary to the water's edge. The crocodile does not hunt with rage. It hunts with calculation. It moves only when the moment is perfect, and when it does, the savannah is reminded that what seemed peaceful was never truly safe. During the Great Migration, this predator reaches the peak of its mastery. Thousands of wildebeests and zebras cross the rivers in search of new grazing lands, and the crocodile becomes a living shadow beneath the current. It singles out the most vulnerable, the one that slips, strays, or hesitates for just a second too long. There is no warning, no sound, only a sudden movement that pulls the victim below, where the murky water closes like a curtain over a silent struggle. For many, the river is a passage. For the crocodile, it is a kingdom. And when the last roar of the current fades and the splashes grow still, the river once again seems peaceful, deceivingly so. But soon, a distant rumble begins to rise. Footsteps, countless footsteps, shaking the dry earth above. The sky fills with dust, and the wind carries the scent of hundreds of thousands of animals on the move. The crocodile remains motionless, guarding its domain, while the savannah itself begins to stir, like a living organism. It is the herald of one of the greatest spectacles on Earth, the Great Migration, when life moves in waves and the landscape transforms into an ocean of motion. When the Earth begins to tremble as if it had a heartbeat of its own, it's a sign that the Great Migration is on its way. From afar, the horizon turns into a haze of dust stirred by tireless hooves. Millions of wildebeests begin a journey that defies time and logic, guided by an instinct as old as the continent itself. They march in endless lines, forming a living river that cuts across the savannah, always in search of fresh grass and water, always chasing the promise of survival. Beside them, zebras, gazelles, and other herbivores follow the same path, as if all were part of a single collective decision. This massive movement, around 1.6 million animals, is not as chaotic as it seems from a distance. There is rhythm, there is pattern, there is a quiet wisdom that makes each group adjust its route according to the rains, the scent of the wind, and even the Earth's magnetic field. Studies show that these animals can sense almost imperceptible changes, navigating with astonishing accuracy through regions they have never seen before. But this spectacle is more than a movement, it is a test. To survive, they must face deep rivers, steep slopes, and the constant threat of predators hiding along the way. Every crossing is a risk. Currents pull, banks collapse, and the fear of murky waters echoes in every anxious bellow. Yet they keep going because to stop is to vanish. The Great Migration is a force that cannot be contained, an ancient promise that keeps pushing life forward, no matter the hardships. And where there is movement, there is opportunity. Lions watch the herds, waiting for a mistake to unfold. Hyenas run along the edges, seeking those who fall behind. In the rivers, crocodiles wait in silence, ready to turn the chaos of crossing into advantage. Still, despite all this danger, most of them make it through. When the first group reaches the new green fields on the other side, the rest understand that the struggle was worth it, and the savannah comes alive again, renewed by the courage and persistence of millions of steps. After the herds pass, silence returns for a brief moment, as though the earth itself exhales in relief. But soon, something else begins to stir within that stillness. Every carcass left behind, every uprooted plant, every trail carved by hooves creates opportunities for much smaller beings. The migration leaves fertile traces for the tiny engineers of the savannah, insects, rodents, and quiet creatures that turn what remains into new life. As the dust settles and the wind softens, the silent kingdom begins its work, and that is where we now head. When the dust of the migration finally settles over the land, the savannah reveals its most discreet inhabitants, beings that work away from the main stage, yet sustain the balance that allows everything else to exist. Among the dry leaves, snakes move with the softness of a whisper, appearing and disappearing like liquid shadows. At the bases of trees, ants and termites transform branches, leaves, and remnants left behind by the great herds into food, shelter, and above all, fertility. Each tiny action renews the soil, keeps vegetation alive, and prepares the land for the next season. Nothing here is random, everything has meaning. And while these small engineers labor in silence, a contrast emerges in the distance, something large, heavy, seemingly from another world. Along the riverbanks, the water stirs slowly, parting to reveal a creature that spends its days submerged and its nights traveling for miles in search of food. Its presence is as imposing as it is unexpected after so much delicacy. It is as if the savannah, after showing its gentlest side, reminds us that it still shelters giants shaped by strength and endurance. And so, following the water's course, we approach the keeper of that quiet power, the hippopotamus. At first glance, the hippopotamus looks like a mountain of flesh at rest, peacefully floating just beneath the surface. But that calm is only a disguise. Behind those half-closed eyes lies an animal shaped to survive in a land where strength and temperament matter as much as water and shade. During the day, it keeps most of its body submerged to escape the burning heat, leaving only its eyes, nostrils, and ears exposed, like small islands drifting on the river. There, in silence, it watches everything around it, alert to any sign of intrusion. When the sun sets and night takes over, the hippopotamus reveals its true routine. It emerges from the water with heavy yet surprisingly swift steps, as if its massive body regains new life on land. It walks for miles in search of fresh grass, following paths it has known since youth. The grass it consumes does nothing to diminish its colossal form. On the contrary, it sustains the strength of an animal that can weigh over 3 tons and still move with the confidence of one who fears almost nothing. But its power goes far beyond size. In the savannah, the hippopotamus is known for its unpredictable temperament. It defends its aquatic territory with a ferocity that surprises even the great predators. Its mouth can open nearly 180 degrees, revealing immense tusks, natural blades ready to protect any space it claims. Few animals dare challenge it. Even experienced crocodiles prefer to yield when this giant decides to occupy part of the river. Its mere movement is enough to reorganize life in the water. Despite its bulk, there is tenderness in the bonds it forms. Females care for their young with remarkable devotion, keeping them close not only from predators, but also from dominant males. The water becomes refuge, cradle, and fortress all at once. Among splashes and dives, the family holds together, finding safety in the liquid world that shapes both their behavior and their lives. The river is their shield, but also their emotional center. And as we follow the hippopotamus in its domain, we sense that the savanna holds a quiet respect for creatures that carry eras within their bodies. When it returns to the water at dawn, the surface closes behind it as if nothing ever happened.
E então há os gigantes, o hipopótamo, uma fortaleza viva de 3 toneladas e até 4 metros de comprimento.
Rises the image of another giant, one that doesn't hide in the water, but rules the solid ground like a living monument carved by time. Is toward this ancient colossus that our path now leads, the rhinoceros. The rhinoceros walks across the savanna like a living memory of a far older world. Its massive body, covered in thick, armor-like skin, contrasts with the calm, almost meditative pace of a creature that feels no need to prove its strength. Every movement reveals an animal that has learned to survive without relying on speed or cunning. Its mere presence commands respect. To see it up close is to stand before something primordial, an echo of ages long past. Its horn, the defining symbol of its anatomy, grows as an extension of its own determination. It uses it not only for defense, but also to dig into the ground, clear paths, and drive away intruders that come too close. Despite its fearsome appearance, the rhinoceros is a giant of simple habits, feeding on low grass and traveling long distances in silence. Its strength lies not in attack, but in endurance, a quiet resilience that time has tried to bend, but never broken. Still, its path is not without hardship. The savanna is ever-changing, and the rhinoceros faces challenges that come not only from nature. It must endure long droughts, shifting habitats, and conflicts with predators in its youth. Yet it continues onward, guided by an ancient instinct simply to exist and to persist. Its small eyes hold a kind of serene sadness, as if aware that every day of peace is one more day won. And when this giant moves on, leaving wide trails pressed into the dust, the silence around it mixes with the haze rising from the ground. Soon, though, a different sound begins to spread. A deep snort, heavy breaths, the synchronized steps of many moving as one. It's the kind of presence that reminds us that power in the savanna isn't always found in a single creature, but in the unity of many. And so, from the solitary shadows of the rhinoceros to the collective thunder ahead, the trail leads us straight into the realm of the African buffalo. The African buffalo emerges as a collective force that commands respect wherever it goes. Unlike the solitary giants of the savanna, its power lies in unity. When a herd moves, the ground seems to tremble under the weight of dozens, sometimes hundreds, of sturdy bodies advancing in unison. Their dark eyes hold a mix of alertness and determination, always watching for movement in the distance. It is an animal that underestimates no danger, yet hesitates before none. Weighing nearly a ton and armed with horns that curve like natural blades, the buffalo is considered one of the most unpredictable and formidable herbivores to face. Even experienced lions think twice before attacking an adult, and when they do, success depends on strategy and luck. That's because buffaloes never abandon their own. When one member is in danger, the others return, surround, defend, and fight as a disciplined army. It is this fierce loyalty that makes the herd nearly impenetrable. Despite their reputation for aggression, buffaloes are driven mostly by the need to survive. They travel great distances in search of pasture and water, endure long droughts, and face storms without losing the unity of the group. Their massive movements help carve trails, churn the soil, and even disperse seeds, reshaping the landscape as they pass. The herd is at once shelter, protection, and power, an essential gear in the grand balance of the savanna. And as we follow the trail marked by the deep prints of these warriors, we realize that not all the savanna's inhabitants rely on strength to endure. Sometimes advantage comes from cunning, silence, and the skill of seizing the opportunities left behind by the giants. In the dusty wake of the departing herd, small, light footsteps begin to approach, almost imperceptible. Among shadows and remnants left on the path, a quiet observer appears, the jackal. The jackal moves through the savanna as if made of wind. It draws no attention, competes with no giants, and depends not on strength to survive. Instead, it relies on sharp intelligence and agility, always appearing in the right place at the right time. Its keen eyes sweep the landscape for opportunity, a careless moment from a larger predator, leftovers from a hunt, or the quick darting of a small rodent through the grass. For the jackal, every detail matters, and every silence hides potential. This ability to adapt makes the jackal an exceptional survivor. Alone or in pairs, it patrols the savanna with light steps, attuned to the behavior of creatures far larger than itself, yet never challenging them directly. And when it finds what it seeks, it acts with surgical precision. A swift leap, a clean bite, and the meal is secured. It is this balance between patience and initiative that defines its success. It doesn't need to dominate anything. It only needs to understand the rhythm of the world it inhabits. And as the jackal moves away with its modest prize, the savanna continues to pulse all around it. Every species, great or small, plays its part in a web of life that reaches far beyond individual survival. The jackal's presence reminds us that the savanna isn't shaped only by power or speed, but by the complex connections that tie everything together, where every action echoes somewhere else. And by following that invisible thread, we begin to grasp the greater truth that sustains this world, the delicate balance that keeps life in motion. The savanna functions as a vast living organism, where every species, regardless of size, is connected by invisible threads of cause and consequence. Predators shape the behavior of their prey. Herbivores sculpt the landscape through the paths they open, and even the smallest insects renew the soil with their tireless labor. Nothing works in isolation. Life here is built upon fragile relationships where each gesture ripples outward, sometimes reaching places the creatures themselves will never see. It is this intricate web of interdependence that allows the savanna to endure the harshest droughts, the fiercest rains, and the constant transformations of its climate. And when we lift our gaze to the sky, we realize that a vital part of this balance lies not only on the ground, but in the air above. The wings crossing the horizon, sometimes in silence, sometimes in chorus, carry essential roles in the ecosystem. They watch what happens below, scatter seeds, control populations, and warn others of danger long before it arrives. Thus, following the natural flow of this perfect whole, our eyes turn upward, drawn toward the next chapter, where the savanna reveals itself not through pause or roars, but through the beating of wings that rule the skies. Above the golden plains of the savanna, birds move the air as if painting invisible paths across the sky. Hundreds of species share this space, each with its rhythm, purpose, and domain. Some travel long distances every day in search of food, others remain perched for hours, watching the movements below before diving in a precise strike. There are those that sing at dawn, announcing the beginning of a new cycle, and others that fly in complete silence, guided only by instinct. Together, they form an aerial chorus that mirrors the life below, responding to the Earth's signals with the sensitivity of creatures born to read the wind. More than mere observers, birds are fundamental to the ecological balance. They control insect and rodent populations, preventing plagues from overrunning the vegetation. They scatter seeds across vast distances, ensuring that new trees sprout in places they might never reach otherwise. They alert other animals to the presence of predators, acting as the savanna's natural sentinels. In their flight, they carry not only beauty but also responsibility, living extensions of the savanna itself, connecting lands, rhythms, and species that might never meet without them. And when the day draws to a close and the last birds cross a sky painted in orange, the savanna settles into a different kind of silence. It is not the absence of life, but an invitation to look deeper. After witnessing the strength of giants, the precision of predators, the journey of herds, and the quiet labor of small creatures, it becomes impossible not to feel that this place reveals something greater than mere landscapes. It is in that moment, as the sky returns the light it borrowed during the day, that the savannah prepares us for one final reflection. Not about the animals, but about ourselves and what we've learned by walking through this realm of life and endurance. At the end of a day in the savannah, when the sun sinks beyond the horizon and the golden glow gives way to a deep blue, it's impossible not to feel that something within us has changed as well. To cross this land is to understand that life here is not merely struggle. It is harmony, discipline, memory, and adaptation. Every animal, every tree, every whisper of wind carries an ancient story, written long before any human gaze existed. The savannah does not ask to be admired. It simply exists, whole, majestic, and sincere, revealing that nature's true strength lies in continuing, even when everything seems to conspire against its permanence. And when we leave this place, we take with us more than images and impressions. We carry the feeling that we are part of something larger, something that pulses beyond what we can measure. The savannah reminds us that life is not defined by how long it lasts, but by how deeply we touch the world while we are here. Among roars, footsteps, wings, and silences, one simple and profound truth remains. Nature doesn't teach us only to observe, it teaches us to exist. And in that quiet understanding, this cycle closes, opening space for new eyes to discover tomorrow what we learn to feel today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch the next documentaries. I'll be waiting for you in the one on your screen.